Welcome to the State of Music. I'm Paul John Dykes, and today I'm absolutely delighted to be joined by JETHRO Alonesta Sheeran. How are you doing, JETHRO?
I'm great. Thanks for having me on the show. How are you?
Absolutely brilliant. It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure to speak to you. Where are you in the world? I know that you have been all over the place during your career. Where are you just now?
Oh, yeah, I'm actually in Denmark now. I've been here basically since June. March. I went to London in June for like 2 weeks, but pretty much been in Denmark the whole time. So I'm actually in the country about 45 miles north of Copenhagen. So yeah, it's a tiny little village, but it's lovely. It's a perfect place to be locked down. I have my music studio here, so I've just been making a hell of a lot of music and yeah, doing some exercise, cooking and gardening and stuff like that.
All the important things to keep that state of mind clear and fresh. I was going to ask, how are things over there? I mean, you'll be aware of the UK situation, the lockdown, how it's affecting people and businesses, but also the entertainment industry as well over here has been rattled, JETHRO. How are things over in Denmark?
Pretty much exactly the same. The initial lockdown was much shorter than the UK because we locked down very early in Denmark, pretty much straight away. I believe Ireland was the only country that did it at the same time, and both countries really benefited from that. But since the second lockdown, we've been, yeah, it's just pretty much the same as the UK. Nothing's open, no hairdressers. Obviously, I've got a big beard now. I'm just going for the old beard look, the lockdown look. Yeah, kind of restaurants, pubs, or gyms, they're all closed. So it's pretty much the same thing, really. There's, the small bubble thing. You can have family occasionally, or maybe two or three over. The schools are closed for over 12s, I believe, here.
Right.
So pretty much similar to the UK. I speak to all my friends and my family in the UK, and they say they're pretty much the same thing. We're at the same level. But I hear Boris Johnson's just announced that we should be opening up around May, June.
The big thing as well, JETHRO, looking at the music industry, live entertainment, be that comedians or spoken word artists, musicians, of course. I've been speaking to a lot of people who feel as though the whole industry is in absolute disarray. I think it was maybe heading that way before the pandemic, but a big key issue that I think a lot of musicians are looking at is what happens next. Do you see musicians regaining control almost of their craft?
It's a very good question, actually. I don't know what's going to happen, but it seems like I saw Charlie Hedges from Radio 1 just posted a gig that she's on with some huge names, Nathan Dawes, Joel Corey and them. And it's a big festival for 3 days in August, I believe. So I'm a bit out of touch here, but it just made me think that maybe how the hell are they going to do 3 days with, there's probably about 50 different DJs and artists on that bill. She only just posted it today. So I'm not sure how that's going to work live wise. But, I've done a few gigs on Zoom and things like that, and it doesn't work. You don't have the energy. You don't get that kind of special kind of buzz from the crowd. It's just weird, to be honest. I'm in a studio with a mic and just singing, and rapping to a screen. Whereas usually you bounce off, the crowd and everything, and the stage and backstage, it's the whole vibe. So I do miss performing live, but I hope it does come back. I don't know what would happen without shows. I mean, I've just been concentrating on recording and getting loads of material for when there's shows and planning a tour as and when. I'm doing an M4 tour, which is the motorway goes from Wales to London and beyond. So we're going to stop off in each city on the M4. That's the plan. But I have no idea when. But yeah, I think it's really, really messed up a lot of artists' welfare and income. Especially session musicians, band members, because when you think about the lead singer of the band is going to be, could be performing or doing interviews, things. But when you think of like the drummer or the guitarist, and they're going to be out of, from all tiers and all levels of success, from the top to, pub bands or wedding bands and things like that. My cousin actually is a wedding band, super successful, booked up a year in advance every single event. And he's got a driving job now, and he can't perform, he can't do anything. So it's a shame, isn't it? It's just like, it really has hit the music industry in terms of live, definitely.
Massively. My biggest concern, Jethro, is what we lose from that. What I mean is how many people are going to fall by the wayside, you know, up and coming artists, for example, who have maybe been breaking through, who end up having to take a job on the side or a driving job, and their whole focus is about survival rather than the creativity. So I worry about that, you know, going forward. But one of the things that really resonated there, you were speaking about how you buzz off the crowd and there's that chemistry. Going back to your kind of younger days, from the outside looking in, I remember thinking, what on earth is happening in Bristol? Look at the talent, look at the creativity coming out from the streets, basically. And I'm talking music, art, you know, Massive Attack, Banksy, Portishead, Tricky, unbelievable.
Body size,
Yeah.
flies. It's just amazing, and you know the amount of art, inky, the graffiti, the hip hop, the reggae culture. You know, there's a club called the Dugout, which is a big fusion of everything. But it kind of birthed from that because before Massive Attack was Wild Bunch, and it's Bristol's just thriving even now with amazing music. But that era that you're talking about was just amazing. The '90s, the trip hop days, Tricky and Delge and Grant and stuff from Massive Attack, absolutely amazing. I've been working actually with some of the Massive Attack, their band, during lockdown.
Right.
I've got a few new songs coming out soon, so
Look forward to hearing that. You know, that was a band that really captured my imagination, as did Ronnie Size. I remember that Mercury Music winning album, which was just unbelievable.
Award, Brown Paper Bag, I believe that was,
Unbelievable. Now, looking further and deeper into that, I sometimes wonder, Jethro, you know, the old saying about poverty is the mother of revolution, and you see some of the working class estates in Scotland who create, you know, they produce so many creative people. Is it the same in Bristol? What is it about Bristol that's created so much talent?
I think it's partly to do with that. Bristol's very kind of dark and bass heavy, and it's kind of it was a fusion, I believe. It was kind of punk, ska, hip hop, reggae, rock, all kind of entwined. And I think it was the kind of merge of these different genres that kind of was so interesting about Bristol music. Like, you know, in Portishead, obviously, it's kind of trip hop, it's quite down tempo vibe, and it's always been uber cool, Bristol, and I don't know really where that came from, but it's very bass heavy. You know, the likes of Ronnie Size and even Three Stripe, Dope Dragon, which was Ronnie's crew, and then there was huge breakdance kind of community down there and graffiti as well. Gold come down spray paint before he was DJing and producing drum and bass and stuff. But I think I came from a very poor background in St. Paul's, the rough area, and single mum, and it definitely came out of a creative kind of hub there. I always remember it being, we were always trying to get out and do something really cool, and whether it be, I was into martial arts back then as well, which I kind of got right into, as well as the music and stuff. Sorry, is that just gone dark?
No, it's still looking good. Still looking good. Yeah.
Yeah. So there was always something going on, and I don't know. It was just a real creative time for me. You write about your environment, the pain, the suffering. I think a lot of music comes out of pain. That's one thing Tricky most certainly would write about, is when he's down. It's the same with me. When my early stuff is all very dark, and that's because I was so influenced by the Bristol sound, living in Bristol. It's very. I was only writing when I was feeling really low. Because when I was happy and I was getting on with my life. But when, my pen would be off safety when I would be really dark and down. So my first album was very kind of trip hoppy and dark, and you kind of expressing the pain inside. But now it's kind of more focusing on, different genres and different music, actually. So
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you mentioned reggae a couple of times, Jethro, and your upbringing. Obviously, you were surrounded by reggae music, weren't you?
Absolutely. I mean, they kind of changed the pulse of my music by moving to Trinidad. I was out in Trinidad for a year, so that's all kind of upbeat calypso party kind of music. But I love the metaphors they used out there, and soca music and things like that. It was brilliant. But reggae, you're growing up in St. Paul's, was predominantly black area, multicultural area. It was heavily, I lived right next to a reggae club, literally every night, 4 o'clock in the morning, from when I was like 4 years old, waking up, going to school, and sometimes it'd still be playing. So it's kind of in my DNA, reggae music, and it'd be on every street corner. And just growing up listening to people like Bob Marley, you know, the classics, Hugh Mundell. My mum used to play quite a lot of reggae and folk and stuff like that. So yeah, I've always, you know, I've actually got a Billboard #1 for reggae. Album, so called Tropical House Cruises to Jamaica. Yeah, so it's always been a big influence, and I'm doing some huge collabs with some reggae artists, including Tommy Lee Sparta, Sizzler, and Capleton coming up. So they'll be out in a couple of months.
See, you know, when you're growing up and you've got this fusion of reggae music coming through the walls almost in your area, and obviously Bob Marley would be a part of that. How thrilling is it eventually to be on an album along with Damian Marley, for example?
Unbelievable. I mean, this was a lifelong dream. I love Damian Marley. I'm good friends with Julian Marley. We text each other regularly. I'm doing a new song with him. He's actually headlining an album that I'm featured on with Shatta Wale, who's a Ghanaian reggae dancehall artist, who's one of my favorites, actually. He's just did a huge track with Beyonce. He's fantastic and very kind of up and coming and vibrant and new. But to be on that Billboard, not only to be on an album with Damian and Stephen Marley, to actually be Billboard #1 on that album and get a plaque for it is just unbelievable. It's got, you know, on the plaque, it's got my name next to Damian Marley, Sean Kingston, Sean Paul, Chronix, Stephen Marley. Yeah, it's just crazy. It blew my mind. So, yeah, it's amazing.
Outstanding. You know, you've spoken there again, going back to the chemistry between you and your audience and your fans, the crowd. When was the first time, can you remember the first time you picked up a mic and maybe started rapping, for example, at a house party?
Yeah, I do actually. It was in Bristol. We were in a crew called EBF1, and it was Evolutionary Beats and Funks. We had no idea what we're talking about. We were about 12, and we were just scratching two tables, not knowing really how to do it. And I picked up the mic, and I just, you know, your typical walking down the street, and I saw my pal. I said, "What's up?" And he said, "Get down." You know, stupid stuff like nursery rhyme kind of things. But you know, it just like I was doing that from us and the crew. Shout out Tony Lowndes, my old EBF1 crew. So yeah, that's where it kind of started in house parties, you know, with our friends and stuff. One of us would have a huge party, like 20 of us would go around, guys and girls, and we just get on the decks and just play music, really. I was always into hip hop at a very young age as well. And, you know, my uncle bought me an Electro 6 tape. And I used to break dance to that and listen to that. And then that evolved into buying 2 turntables, 1210 Technics. And I started scratching and mixing, and then I just picked up the mic when I was young, but also later on when I was like 19, 20. But where it really started coming from, my writing and things, and sort of my rhythms and writing, was from poetry when I was really young. That's where my name Alone Star kind of comes from, because when I was a kid, I was at school, maybe bullied, or, you know, all my angst and fear, anxieties used to come out when I used to come home. And we just moved into this new house with my mum, and I had a big room with no curtains. We just moved in, and there's this North Star behind me that used to shine down. So when my mum used to turn the light off for bed about 8 o'clock in the evening, I was only like 9 or 10 or something. I had to go under my futon and get out a pen and pad and scribble down all my thoughts, and it was kind of like poetry. And I used to, you know, the light came from the stars. That's why I called a Lone Star. So they used to give me light to write my kind of lyrics, and I still have some of them today. Jesus Christ, I was messed up. It was just, you know, it's quite beautiful to read, actually. You could just really see, like, you know, maybe a girl didn't fancy me that I was in love with, or someone, you know, poked me in the eye, and I used to just talk. But what I found out was I could just get all of this therapy. I just felt like, I could breathe again. The next day I go to school feeling great because it was all on paper. And sometimes I'd screw the paper up and throw it away purposely. So that was like getting rid of my issues.
Yeah.
So that's where it really stemmed from. So, you know, I was kind of doing lyrics, and, you know, later on when I was actually putting melodic raps and really rhyming them together. But even though it's poetry, I still made it rhyme.
No, that's brilliant. And again, as you say, the outpouring of your emotions to almost get over it. You know, as you say, crumple up that bit of paper and throw it in the bin. Get rid of that, you know. Brilliant.
One thing, I drove past that house where I moved in with no curtains, and I drove past, and outside that window there's a huge street light. So I hope it was a star and it wasn't a street light coming through.
It sounds far more poetic, doesn't it, with the star, the lone star. You've spoken about rap, and I remember again, just kind of like generically getting into the kind of the rap music that was coming over from the States, you know, maybe in the 1990s. And there was a massive kind of misconception that you had to be from that area to be a rapper. You know, you had to be in the ghettos and you had to live that life really to be deemed good enough to rap. But that's been ripped up and thrown out the window, hasn't it, really, over the years, Jethro?
Absolutely. I mean, totally. I mean, this is one thing that I loved about Tupac Shakur. He was my favorite rapper, still is to this day. But when he came on, you're exactly right. When he, you know, all MTV, the box and stuff first came out, and I used to watch these American, US rappers like Tupac, you know, one thing struck me was one of his songs called Dear Mama, where he wrote a whole song of, you know, loving his mother. And it just made me think, you know, this is the most gangster rapper, you know, been shot and, you know, everything you could think of in gangster rap we represented. But, you know, here's a song all about his mother and how much he loves her. And he wasn't, you know, he was confident and, you know, secure enough to write about these things. And I just felt like, oh, I love my mother. I'm going to write a song about my mum. And I've written like 3 to date. And I think what it is just like that was where it was birthed, because, you know, hip hop, you know, coming out of New York and Cool Herc and things like that. It was, you know, that's where it's birthed. But that's the environment they were talking about. But I think, you know, it doesn't take you to be in a ghetto or selling drugs or to be shot or to shoot someone to have, you know, pain in your life. I think, you know, you can still write about your you know, the pain in your life, whether you're a millionaire but you're struggling with, you know, your mum's got cancer or anything you could be going through. You know, you could be writing about how you feel. It's all about how you feel, and it's all about perception, I think. So music's about the spirit. It's not really, you know, when people pigeonhole hip hop and stuff, and I get it, and I got it a lot when I was younger. A, being English, and B, being white. So you know, I got a lot of stick for doing it, but I just was writing about you know, things that was going in my life and what was I was struggling and going through, and it helped me a lot to get, you know, and I still do to this day. So yeah, like you said, I think that's all been blown apart, and just, you don't, when you're rapping or doing hip hop music, you don't have to necessarily be a gangster or, you know.
Absolutely. Now, you know, when we're looking back to your musical kind of upbringing and also your introduction and picking up the mic for the first time, I find it interesting that for quite a spell you had a completely different career, and that you were a model for a long time. You featured in movies. What was it? Did you always have in the back of your mind though that you would return to music? Was that your first love?
Yeah, do you know what? Modeling, I was never into fashion. It bored me to death, but I just realized I was getting my haircut one day and someone came up with a card and said, oh, do you want to do this YTS campaign, which was a youth training scheme campaign? You know, I was never a fashion model, you know, like I went to Milan and did catwalk and stuff, but I was short and I was never really interested in it. That wasn't really my thing. I was always commercial, kind of, you know, doing Pepsi and Coca-Cola or Walker's Crisps or, you know, Budweiser or whatever, you know, these kind of commercial adverts, shampoo and stuff like that. And I just found that it was great to make quick money and allow me to have so much time to do my music. So even when I was modeling for 10 years in London, I was always making music under a group called The Click. So we would use the money and make CDs and, you know, put on shows and gigs and things like that. So yeah, it was always just a backdrop, because yeah, I was never really, I was more kind of jeans, t-shirt or tracksuit kind of guy. But
Yeah.
I mean, also modeling really helped me explore the world. You know, I
Yeah.
traveled everywhere, literally. You know, everywhere: Sri Lanka, Russia, and, you know, all around Europe twice. I was in New York living for a while and stuff, so it just allowed me to do some great things and meet some amazing people. And throughout those journeys, I always kind of poured a little bit of culture and music from each trip that I
Yeah.
did. I remember going to Turkey, and someone was teaching me how to play some Turkish hand drum and stuff like that. And I've got one to this day. So Morocco as well. Morocco, I've learned a lot.
Yeah, see, the thing I always think about is your birthplace is obviously, it's by default wherever your parents are at that particular time. You've travelled all over the globe. Is there a specific place that you feel a certain affinity with?
I love the Caribbean. You know, Trinidad. I lived for a long time, and I love that place. My daughter was raised there. She's living here in Denmark now. It was just the culture, the people, the vibe, and the talent of, it's such a small country with so much talent out there. It was just insane. And I would need somebody to play bass or have a trumpet player, and there'd be like three at the studio just come down that day, and brass sections. It was just really access to musicians and real great talent was beautiful, and I just love the culture out there. Everything, sun, rum, food. And then I stayed in Barbados, did some
Hmm.
recording out there. So the Caribbean is very close to my heart. I love Ireland. I'm half Irish, so that's where Sheeran name comes from. So I've always been going to Ireland since I was little. Greece, I love Greece, but also the States. I think I've never been to Australia. That's one place I haven't been, which I'd love to go. But I do love the States. I've been to the States many times. I was in New York a year before last, and yeah, I love America too. I think, yeah, especially the kind of urban hip hop vibes when I go there. I
Yeah.
can really into get into the back streets and do some shopping, get some fresh trainers and stuff. So I love the buzz of New York.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can't just go once, can you? You need to go back. It's one of these
Yeah,
places.
yeah, absolutely.
You mentioned your name, the origins of your name, going back
Mm.
to Ireland. And again, we've spoken quite a bit about your DNA. Music is in your family quite clearly, isn't it, Jethro? Talk
Yeah.
to us about that talent that seems to just flow through your family.
Well, it's actually both sides. My dad's side is the Sheeran side, so obviously that's Ed and Laura and my uncles and aunts. But my mother's side is the Thomas side. They're very, very musical as well. My mum was a folk singer. She used to play like the recorder as well. My cousin on my mother's side, Ollie Thomas, I work with him to this day. Sorry, we've just produced a new track called All Falls Down, which features Ed Sheeran. He's pretty much produced the whole record live drums and guitar and stuff. So I have musical kind of talent on both sides of the family, but it was kind of just the Sheeran side. It was we would always me and Ed were always kind of into similar things, really, because I was never just into hip hop. I was quite into my mum was a folk singer, so I grew up listening to um, Neil Young and Bob Dylan and stuff like that. So who
Yeah.
were amazing, brilliant writers. And Ed was massively into that because his dad and my dad, who are brothers, obviously listened to the same music, the Beatles and stuff like that. So Ed was heavily influenced with his guitar and singing, and I was kind of coming from Bristol. He was in Suffolk. We kind of meet up at weddings and stuff, and I do the drums, whether it be live or on a drum machine. He'd have a guitar, I'd rap, and he would sing. So it was just kind of logical progression from that, really. Which, if you listen to his first ever EP, number five collaborations, is exactly that: just guitar, drums, rapping, and features, and him singing hooks and stuff. So that's where it kind of emerged from the early days, which were yeah, incredible, great times. And then he moved to London. I was living in London. He came and stayed with me for quite a lot, and we started recording out of Din Sound in Limehouse in London with a guy called Julian Simmons, an engineer. So we had some great times. And this was when there was no pressure, there's no record labels or managers involved,
Yeah.
and we just kind of like were making music purely for the love of music and experimenting. We were sampling Imogen Heap. I remember we did a brilliant track. I need to find that on my MPC and things like that. We were reversing hi hats and stuff, like real nerdy stuff. So it's great times. He'd go out busking and make some money. I might have a modeling job here and there. So we were just kind of like properly surviving in London, like so it's great time.
Brilliant.
And to see Ed's, his where he's got to now. I saw him at Wembley, which was insane because I performed in a pub with him to like 9 people, and we've done birthdays, my aunties and uncles and stuff. And then I just see him, 90,000 people. It was just like it was insane. So yeah, incredible, isn't it?
It is, absolutely. And it's great that you have had the experience of coming through the kind of difficult times and seeing a pub with 9 people in it. Although I'm sure loads of people claim to have been there because that always happens with these early gigs, doesn't it? Jethro, tell us about some of the music that you're making at the moment, some of the tunes that we can check out online.
Cool. So right now I have a track called "Raise 'Em Up," featuring one of my favorite rappers of the '90s, Freeway. He's signed to Rock Nation, which is Jay-Z's label, and he was in a crew with Jay-Z. So that is called "Raise 'Em Up," and that also features Ed. Sheeran. Brilliant track. It's like a hip hop pop track. It's going to be coming out in 3 weeks' time, and so there's going to be some promo and some radio coming out just about now, really, this week, next week. And another track I've got called Keep On Moving, which is a great track. It's one of my favorites I've written. And it features an artist from Trinidad that lives in London called Kojo Regolt. And it's produced by a Ugandan producer, an amazing, talented producer called Herbert Skills. It's all about keep on moving in the pandemic. It's such a positive, uplifting vibe, and it's got a real kind of energy to it. So, yeah, Keep On Moving featuring Kojo Regolt. That's the single that's out now. So we're doing an impact date. So we're going to be doing kind of a whole bunch of promo on that too. But it is out now to stream.
And what about yourself online? I mean, people can have their platforms and their hubs online. Jethro, where do we find you? Where's the best place to find your music?
Well, I have a website, is AloneStarSheeran.com. If you go there, you can find me. You can Google me. You'll find me somewhere. But Instagram, I'm AloneStarSheeran. And Facebook.com/AloneStarMusic. And on Twitter, I'm AloneStar1. Twitter.com/AloneStar1. So if you Google Jethro Sheeran or Alone Star, you'll find me somewhere. But I'm very active on social media. But mainly I'm on Instagram. So check me out there. Give me a follow and send me a text.
Absolutely, and we'll put all your links underneath this video as well, Jethro. We've been speaking a wee bit about the lockdown, and I think what you've said is great advice. You know, get exercising, do things that you enjoy doing, be that poetry, writing, music. Continue to do that. It's all about the state of your mind as well, you know. And from the lockdown going forwards, what do you hope to achieve yourself? Is there anything in the pipeline? Is the music industry evolving? Is there any, for example, is there any record companies in discussions or sniffing around your work at the moment?
There is actually, yeah, absolutely. I just had a message this week from EMI, Universal, you know, asking for a meeting. I've just signed a record deal, 2 songs. And I was offered a deal from Fiverr as well, 45 records. So it's kind of picking and choosing. I'm going to be kind of, you know, flirting with Universal for a while and see what they have to say, because I'm kind of pretty steady going independent. I mean, I've done 17 million streams since July, which is incredible. So I'm just, you know, that's because I've had so much time to make music and just release it with promotion and stuff. So I've just been... that's all I've done. I've really worked hard on that kind of side of things, and it's really worked. And I think in this streaming climate, you have to release often. You know, the Daniel Ek from Spotify said recently, you know, it's, you know, the days of just doing 1 album a year. I think he really upset Tom York from Radiohead because, you know, someone puts in so much effort for 1 album, but now the way it's kind of moving, it's just, you know, bang, it's a new song every Friday. It's release radars, you know, new radio. That's the new radio for kids and stuff. So you're just releasing lots of music. So it's all about content. It's a long game now with just releasing a hell of a lot of music. So it does, yeah. And I've been able to do that in lockdown. But yeah, whether I take a record deal for myself as an artist to sign Alone Star, I'm not sure. But Urban Angel is my label. That's what I've been releasing on. So I'm in talks with a deal for the label. So we release everything through that. We keep our master recordings, and we have complete creative control with my team, and it'll be a partnership. So they distribute and promote, do, you know, radio marketing, promo, big campaigns and stuff, and just kind of put it through the machine. And also the great thing about that is it's going to highlight my back catalogue by them blowing up my singles.
Yeah, absolutely.
I've got a new track with Lil Wayne coming, called Cooking Up. So that's one that I'll be signing over. So I'm excited to see, you know, the actual big major record labels, see how they work in terms of promo marketing, and see what reach they have, you know, worldwide. Because all my streams are coming from America, Australia, Germany, Scandinavia, London, England. I mean, my biggest cities, London and Oslo in Norway, and Sydney. That's the top 3. So that's random, but it's pretty amazing. It's so cool with these new apps. You can see where your audience is.
Yeah. The analytics, it is incredible. But that means you need to visit Sydney now, Jethro. You need to take that trip.
Absolutely. I can't wait. I've just done a load of Facebook ads in Sydney for for the Keep On Moving release. So it's so cool because I just started flooding Sydney now in Germany with all my new music, because I know that they've liked, predominantly all my old catalogue and stuff. And Japan as well is interestingly a big market for me as well. So it's been really cool recently, and I've just enjoyed making music. But I think you're right what you just said about lockdown. I've had that to keep me occupied, and I try and get out and run. I've got 2 dogs, so I exercise a lot. We're getting some chickens in the garden. I've been doing a lot of gardening as well, cooking. So it's just staying busy, because I think for mental health, you have to kind of, staying. It's almost like being on lock, like what do they call it? When you're in prison, you have a thing on your ankle. You're on tag.
Yeah.
It's a bit like that. You're confined to your own home, and you're a prisoner in your own home. And some people that don't do anything can, they get a bit. I've heard people get suicidal back home in Bristol, and people that just, are claustrophobic, and they're just, they get this SAD disease, as it seasonal affection disorder, and it's been grey and pretty dim in Bristol. So I feel sorry for people that kind of stuck there with nothing to do. So I would try and get into, apart from Netflix, try and get outside and exercise and eat healthy, and super hydrate and everything.
Oh, definitely. And, we will get through it. That's the big thing. There will be better times. We will be able to see you live. We'll be able to do all these things that we've been missing for a year or so. But all that's left for me to say, Jethro, is it's been an absolutely fascinating discussion this afternoon. So thank you very much for your time. And thanks for joining me on The State of Music.
It's been brilliant. Thank you so much.
Good man. Take care.
All right. Thank you.